'Twas Halloween in Whomville, the spookiest of nights, with tricks and treats and ghouls and frights. The children all dressed up in orange and black, and other colors too, as a matter of fact. Buckets in their hands and sweets on their minds, set out to find candy of every kind. Bright was the moon and dark was the sky, but darkest of all was the heart of this guy. You might remember from winter last year, the Grimch from his cave still scowled as he leered. He still hated Christmas, but so it would seem, he hated all holidays like Halloween. But he'd learned his lesson from Christmas past, to not harass whom's or judgment would pass. He'd finished his debt for his devious deeds. Community service had left him unpleased. But he still hung a sign, as he did every year, warning whom children to never come near. He hated the costumes and candy and games. He hated most everything, yes, it's a shame. But this Hallows Eve would be different for sure, a night that would shake him to his very core. For who should appear but the Halloween Herald, a legally safe knockoff of A Christmas Carol?
Mr. the Grinch, I think you should know. Severe punishment waits at the end of your road. Unless your heart changes and you fix your ways, you'll spend forever weighed down with some chains.
The Grinch was so startled. Where had he come from? The look on his face must have been very dumb. But the Grinch gained composure, and his face turned red. And burning with rage, this is what he said.
Get out of my house and leave me alone. I thought I was the one who snuck into homes.
Fuming and mad, he went for his gun, only to find he didn't have one.
I'm not an intruder, but sent from above. You're better off heeding, rather than shove me away for today. Your reckoning is. Trust me, the Grinch, this is serious shiz.
Tired and ticked, the Grinch grumbled out.
Well, who are you then, and what's this about?
The visitor sighed, then stated his carol.
You, sir, do speak with the Halloween Herald. Your sins and your crimes, they are all numbered. With that number of chains, you'll soon be encumbered. Lest you turn back now and soften your heart, all will be forgiven if you've a new start.
The Grinch, somewhat bored, not paying attention, thought this a waste, and so he did mention.
I value your concern. Well, really, I don't. You want me to change? Well, I probably won't. And so, Mr. Herald, though I don't know how you got in, I want you to please go now.
The Halloween Herald, now a little ticked, said,
My name isn't Harold. It's actually Nick. Herald is my job, but everyone thinks that's my name, and I tell you that it really stinks. But tonight you will hear 3 knocks on your door, 3 trick-or-treaters. Of that you'll be sure. Each with a message you'd best ponder on, for you've no more chances once those 3 are gone. 3 costumed spirits, your angelic spooks. Now, I must be off, you slimy green Scrooge.
And he disappeared right out of the room. And the Grinch, he just stood there and scowled and stewed.
What did I eat that made me see a ghost? I didn't do drugs, I just had some toast.
Somewhat confused, he snorted and scoffed.
I'll just go to bed and sleep all this off.
And with no more thought, he went to his bed, hoping that slumber would sort out his head. But soon he was woken by a knock at the door, and it wouldn't stop, he couldn't ignore. So cranky as Scrooge, he got up again, to see who dared trespass his decrepit den. And who there was standing but Mindy Boo Hoom, the sweetest to ever come from a whom womb.
Oh hey, you're the guy who asked for my daddy. He finally came back, and now I'm so happy.
The Grinch smiled nervously.
Oh, that's good to hear. Now tell me, what was your costume this year?
Mindy then beamed, and voice full of glee, she said,
Can't you tell? I dressed up as me.
The dumbest thing he'd ever heard up till now, the Grimch would have laughed, but he didn't know how. Instead, he grumbled,
Well, that's very nice, but I don't have candy, so have a good night.
He slammed the door closed, unsettled a whim. He hoped that his lies wouldn't catch up to him. He tried to de-stress as he went back to bed, but sleep wouldn't come, so he logged on instead to his Twitter account, which now was unbanned, and typed something mean, for he was very mad. But prior to clicking to send his mad rant, a knock met his ears, raucous as a band. He tried to ignore, but the sound didn't stop. If he wasn't an ex-con, he'd have called the cops. He waited 5 minutes, and 5 minutes more, before cursing and spitting, throwing open the door, and seething and trembling, with wrath on his breath, said,
You stupid little kid, now I'll stab you to death. Hello there, sweet whom. Happy Halloween. Giving out candy is my favorite thing.
The whom then laughed, his nose kind of runny.
Mister, your costume is ugly and funny. Now you listen here, you might be a kid, but I'll tear out your esophagus. Here you are now, take some of my candy. I hope your night is very fun and dandy.
The small whom departed, now pleased with his haul, and the Grimch then growled, not happy at all.
I hate Halloween, and I hate every whom.
Fuming and mad, he returned to his room, and tried to retire, but that awful sound, a third wretched knocking, though not quite as loud, no patience left in him. To the doorway he went, and opened it, wishing this night would just end. But this time outside, shivering in the wind, stood none other than dear, rather small Tim. All sickly and pale, but still with a smile, he greeted the Grimch without any guile.
Hi there, dear sir. I hope you are well. I'm rather small Tim. I've no tricks to tell. I'm very sick. I might live but a month, so while I still can, I'll share joy with each one.
The Grimch didn't know what to say or to do. His heart started growing. It grew and it grew. This child before him, a poor little whom, why should the world torment him so soon?
Dear little whom, you've reached straight to my heart. I cannot do much. Dear little whom, you've reached straight to my heart. I cannot... Dear little whom, you stupid kid! Dear little whom, you've reached straight to my heart. I cannot do much, but I'll do my part. Candy I have not, if that's what you'd like, but what could I give that would help with your plight?
With a small smile, rather small Tim replied,
I need some medicine, so if you might, give me money, so that's prescription I'll afford. I'll pray that in heaven you get your reward.
The Grimch nodded and went to retrieve his cash, then handed it to Tim, though he didn't have hands.
May heaven shine on you and help you get through, that you may live long, healthy, and happy too.
God bless you, sir, and bless every whom.
Then rather small Tim left, now humming a tune. But once out of earshot, he laughed to himself. That dude was a sucker like everyone else. So away he went, all pleased with his scheme. But the Grimch didn't know this. To him it did seem that giving to others might be worth his while, and for the first time, the Grimch finally smiled. But right at that moment, he heard a small clatter, and right above his door, an egg had just splattered. All good feelings gone, he ran off his porch, with the anger of mobs of pitchfork and torch.
You stupid kids, you won't get away now. No one can hear you. There's no one around.
And as he ran after, he screamed and he howled.
When I catch you whoms, you'll each get disemboweled.
The Grimch kept on running right down into Whomville to catch the few whoms whom he wanted to kill. The police were called and the fuzz soon arrived. They tasered the Grimch and stuffed him inside of their car and set off and drove to the station where the Grimch was then booked for public aggravation. The rest of his night was spent locked in a cell. All things considered, things hadn't gone well. But what of the Herald? I thought you might ask this. Alas, he gave the spirits an incorrect address. And those trick-or-treaters the Grimch had encountered were just normal children, not any profounder. So the Grimch didn't learn anything or change at all, and his Halloween night was spent in 4 cell walls. This story has no moral, save perhaps this. It's usually not good to try and murder kids.